Welcome back to another deep dive. Okay, let's dive into this because today we're looking at a completely fascinating collision. We're talking about the intersection of high-end cinematic vision and the piece of technology currently sitting right there in your pocket. The whole landscape of visual storytelling is undergoing a massive seismic shift right now. In this explainer, we're pulling directly from recent industry spotlights to see exactly how established filmmakers are radically altering their approach through a really unique collaboration. It's an evolution that challenges literally everything we thought we knew about professional filmmaking, basically trading in massive, sprawling sets for unprecedented mobility. So what makes a film truly cinematic? Seriously, think about that for a second. For decades, industry programming and all those behind-the-scenes featurettes have conditioned us to believe that cinema absolutely requires millions of dollars. You know, towering cranes, trucks packed full of heavy gear, and massive lighting arrays. We've kind of been taught to equate the size of the equipment with the actual quality of the art. But does it really have to be that way? This explainer is going to challenge you to rethink that premise entirely. What if that massive footprint is actually holding us back? What if true cinema isn't about the hardware at all, but purely about the story being told and that intimate connection between the director, the actor, and us, the audience? To see where the industry is actually heading, let's look at MAMI Select meets iPhone. Now, what's truly interesting here is the actual legitimacy behind the MAMI Select initiative. Because, let's be clear, this isn't just some casual experiment or a clever marketing gimmick. This is an initiative deeply tied to the prestigious Mumbai Academy of Moving Image. We are talking about highly respected, established film academies validating a completely new approach from the ground up. They're actively commissioning filmmakers to redefine the absolute boundaries of visual storytelling. But there's one major catch. They are shooting their cinematic works entirely on an iPhone. The very fact that an institution at this elite level is championing this method gives it massive authoritative framing. It's a clear signal that mobile filmmaking has fully arrived as a legitimate, highly respected artistic pursuit. The core mission here is nothing short of redefining the art form. We're seeing established directors, people who have spent their entire careers lugging around traditional, bulky cinema cameras, actively choosing to rewrite the rules of how stories are visually captured. And they aren't just settling for mobile technology, they're deliberately leveraging it to discover entirely new creative languages. They're finding that the old constraints of traditional filmmaking are suddenly just gone, and they've been replaced by a canvas that allows for a completely different kind of artistic expression. All right, let's move right along to redefining cinematic vision. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact contrast we're talking about. Think about the reality of traditional filmmaking. You've got heavy rigs that take literally hours to build, massive crews required just to move a camera a few feet, and an incredibly high barrier just to get a single shot. It's slow, it's cumbersome, and man, it is incredibly expensive. But then look at the new paradigm of iPhone filmmaking. It's agile, it's deeply intimate, and it is entirely accessible. You don't have to wait around for a team of grips to lay down dolly tracks. You just move. You react to the moment. You capture it. By completely removing the physical footprint of those traditional cameras, the entire process gets redefined. Honestly, it's almost funny when you realize that the phone sitting on your desk right now has camera specs that rival, and in some areas even outperform, a massive $30,000 Red cinema camera from just 10 years ago. Because of that insane power, you get unprecedented mobility. That means you can shoot in tight spaces where a traditional crew could never ever fit. Think the backseat of a moving car, a crowded marketplace, or a tiny elevator. Plus, low-profile shooting lets directors capture this authentic documentary-style realism because they aren't intimidating their subjects with a giant lens right in their face. And that directly leads to the last 2 points. You can experiment with completely unique camera angles on the fly, and you achieve a much closer intimacy with your actors. The device practically disappears, and all you're left with is the performance. So, let's see how this builds into a completely revitalized workflow. Think about the dramatically shortened gap between having a spark of creative inspiration and actually executing it. Under the old system, a director would have this brilliant idea, and then they'd have to sit and wait an hour for lighting and camera setup. By then, the magic of the moment could easily evaporate. But now, the process is streamlined into 3 incredibly rapid steps. Step 1. Conceive the idea. Step 2, frame the shot instantly on the mobile device right there in your hand. Step 3, capture the vision immediately. There is zero friction. The technology is finally keeping up with the speed of human thought. Which naturally brings us to the democratization of cinema. The number one, that is the barrier to entry now, just one single device. You don't need to visit a rental house, you don't need a massive line of credit from a bank, and you definitely don't need permission from some studio executive. that massive, intimidating wall that has separated aspiring creators from the actual creation of high-end cinema, it is essentially dropped to the one device you likely already own and use every single day. We are witnessing a massive, unprecedented accessibility shift in the history of the visual arts. And this might just be the absolute most important takeaway of this entire explainer. The tool no longer dictates the art, the visionary does. For over a century, the power of storytelling on a grand scale has been heavily gatekept. It was restricted by budget, by elite industry access, and by who could afford the most expensive gear. Well, that era is effectively over. The MAMI Select initiative highlights that when the technology becomes this incredibly accessible, the only thing that separates a good film from a bad film is the vision of the person holding the camera. Your talent, your perspective, and your narrative, those are now the true driving forces.
So, as we wrap up our analysis, let's take a quick look at the future of film.
The core takeaway from everything we've looked at today is simply this. Your cinematic vision is now fully in your hands. The MAMI Select initiative proves without a shadow of a doubt that smartphone cinema is not some lesser alternative. It is a highly viable, deeply democratic standard for the next generation of storytellers. The tools of the masters are literally the tools in your pocket. The playing field hasn't just been leveled, it has been completely reinvented from the ground up. Which leaves us with this final lingering question. The barrier to entry is entirely gone. Those heavy rigs and massive budgets are no longer prerequisites for telling a deeply moving cinematic story. The most prestigious academies in the entire world are validating this format right now. You have the studio, the camera, and the editing suite right there in the palm of your hand. So the only question left to answer is, what is your cinematic vision? Think about that for a bit, and I'll see you in the next explainer.